Hi everyone, so great that you're joining us today to learn more about fraternity and sorority life here at SFA. So my name is Claire Denholm. I am part of the office staff here. I am the coordinator, and Seville Harris, who you may have met, may have seen around, he serves as the director of fraternity and sorority life here. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. You will see on the screen the web address for our website. Nope. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us to learn more about fraternity and sorority life here at SFA. So my name is Claire Denholm. I am part of the fraternity and sorority life office staff. I am the coordinator, and my supervisor is Seville Harris. You may have seen him or heard him around as you've been participating in Jack Camp orientation activities. He is the director of fraternity and sorority life here at SFA. So you'll see on the screen a QR code that you can scan that will take you to our website, or you can type in the web address right above that. Our website has information on all 4 of our councils, all of our organizations. It has a way for you to contact both Seville and myself. It will really answer probably 99% of your questions. So just want to make sure that you have that, and we'll kind of get into it. So a little bit about us in the Fraternity and Sorority Life office. Like I said, Seville is the director of Fraternity and Sorority Life. He actually did his undergrad and grad work here at SFA, so he's definitely a proud lumberjack. He advises the National Panhellenic Council, or the NPHC, or Divine Nine, as well as the Interfraternity Council, or IFC. And he is actually a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So as I said, my name is Claire Denholm. I actually did my undergrad at the University of New Orleans and my grad work at the University of North Texas, but I am so glad to be here in Nacogdoches and becoming part of the lumberjack family. So I advise the Panhellenic Council, or PAN, and the Multicultural Greek Council, or MGC, and I am a member of Zeta Tau Alpha. So both Seville and I, we were very active in our sorority and fraternity when we were in college, and we still do things as alum today. So our membership is really important to us, and it also lets you know that you can connect with us with your experience. We know what it was like. We're here to help you and give advice with whatever it may be. So you may be wondering, what can fraternity and sorority life offer me? So it's actually multifaceted. It offers so much more than just a place to hang out with people. So you get this great connection to SFA. Coming into college, whether you're a transfer student, an incoming freshman, it can be hard to make friends. It's not like how it was in high school, where you pretty much spend 24/7 next to these people. You have all the same classes, everything like that. So it can be difficult to create those connections and create those bonds. Well, whenever you join a fraternity or sorority, you pretty much have an automatic group of people that are there for you, that are there to support you. And then not only do you end up kind of having this group yourself, but then guaranteed everybody else in the fraternity or sorority, they're involved in other things on campus that they can connect you to. So right off the top of my head, I can tell you that the president of the Student Activities Association, he's a member of Sigma Lambda Beta Fraternity Incorporated. So that's a connection right there. And we have so many fraternity men and women who are serving as Jack Camp orientation leaders this year, who are just involved in so many things that it's a great way to plug you into the campus. So academics is really important to fraternity and sorority life. In our office, we do not allow anyone with a GPA that's below 2.5 to participate in any sort of recruitment activities to join any of our organizations. So you do have to meet that minimum. And then some of our organizations have higher minimums that need to be met in order to join that org. So even though we require a 2.5, some of our organizations require as high as a 3.0 in order to join. And once you join that organization, you're expected to maintain a minimum GPA, and failure to do so means that you could no longer be able to attend certain events or something like that. Philanthropy and service is so important to each of these organizations. We're very lucky in that all of our fraternities and sororities, they're national or international orgs. So the philanthropic work that they do is truly nationwide. And this covers a really broad range of areas and focuses. So for example, one of our Panhellenic groups, their philanthropy is Make-A-Wish. One of our fraternity groups, their philanthropy is Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. So it really kind of covers everything under the sun. And on top of that philanthropic work, which typically those are fundraisers that then that money is shared with those focuses, each of our organizations do local service work. So either local or within kind of like the East Texas area. So not only are they doing fundraising, but they're having an opportunity to do stuff directly in the community of Nacogdoches and East Texas. When it comes to the leadership opportunities in fraternity and sorority life, it's pretty much like none other. Every single chapter has an officer board and committees that you can join, that you can grow as a leader with. And then on top of that, every single chapter is part of what is known as a council. And every council has an officer board as well. So you have leadership opportunities both in the chapter and then at the council level. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, you have this great connection to SFA. So you have the opportunity for leadership within your own chapter, and then there are those opportunities for leadership in any of the other organizations that you join that you may be connected to by your fraternity brothers or sorority sisters. And then also this leadership doesn't stop after you've graduated. There are opportunities to continue volunteering and gain leadership roles with your national organization after graduation. Personally, I volunteer and get an opportunity to travel and interact with collegiate women with my organization. So that's been a pretty cool thing too. I've been able to continue to develop my leadership style and my leadership skills through the involvement of my sorority. So obviously there is a social aspect to really sort of any organization where you're finding your best friends. So each of our organizations, they host events, whether they're open to the public or if it's just for members only. There are opportunities to, you know, connect, have fun, watch movies, watch a sports game, go out to eat, whatever it may be. There are those opportunities for you so that you can hang out with basically your best friends. Obviously, things will look a little bit different this year just because of COVID-19, but I know that each of our organizations are still finding ways to engage members and connect with members, despite some of the difficulties surrounding that. And so obviously with our fraternities and sororities, you get brotherhood and sisterhood. It's truly like nothing else. I know that sounds so cheesy, but I mean, my sorority sisters who I joined my chapter with, like, they're my people, and I still have great connections with them to this day, even though I graduated college in 2012. So it's really this incredible bond that follows you as you know, go through your coursework through your time at SFA, and then it carries on into your adulthood. And that's really cool. So as I said, there are opportunities to engage with your organization after you graduate. So every single organization has alumni chapters around the country that you can join. There are opportunities to volunteer, to get involved with service work and philanthropic work. And every single organization has a headquarters here in the United States. And so with that headquarters, again, there are opportunities for employment, there are opportunities to volunteer and assist. The possibilities are endless to remain involved and keep that connection going strong after you've graduated and ended your time at SFA. Okay, so I mentioned earlier how there are councils that oversee our chapters. So I'll kind of break those down for you so that you can get an idea of what we offer here at SFA. So for our Interfraternity Council, as I said, their nickname is IFC. We have 12 active chapters, and we have 2 suspended chapters who are returning about mid-fall of this year. And so you'll see on the screen that we have some pictures of just kind of some of the involvement. So our last, Mr. SFA, he was a member of Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity, as well as our Miss SFA. She was a member, or she is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Okay, no. Okay, so I mentioned earlier how we have 4 councils here on campus that kind of are the umbrella organization over the fraternities and sororities that we have here. So we'll learn a little bit more about those. So first up, we have the Interfraternity Council. Their nickname is IFC. We have 12 active chapters right now, and then we have 2 suspended chapters who will be returning this fall, 2020. We're looking at about September, October-ish, but we expect to have 14 by the end of this year. So you'll see on the screen that we have a few pictures of some of the involvement and some of the things that they do around campus. So our Mr. and Miss SFA from 2019, they were both members of Fraternity and Sorority Life here. Mr. SFA is a member of Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity, which is in IFC. And then Miss SFA, she's a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, which is a sorority in our NPHC council. And so this is a listing of all of the IFC fraternities that we have on campus right now. This does not include those 2 fraternities who are suspended but will be returning. But as you can see, we have a wide variety of fraternities here at SFA, and they all offer something unique, different. They're all some really great guys. And you can even kind of see from the pictures on this screen that they have been involved in Jack Camp in the past. So yeah, really involved on campus, really like connecting with students and getting out there. Okay, so our next council is a Multicultural Greek Council. Their nickname is MGC. We have 4 active chapters, and we have 1 chapter that's currently expanding. So by the end of fall 2020, we will have 5 active chapters here at SFA. And so you'll see on the screen opportunities for service work. They're doing some tabling and things like that. So we have 2 sororities and 2 fraternities currently active at SFA right now. And the organization that is expanding is another sorority. So when it comes to connecting with an organization that's expanding, there are some really cool opportunities to really build the groundwork for that organization. So that's just a really neat element of an org that's starting up. And so again, you'll see some involvement. For example, Sigma Lambda Beta Fraternity Incorporated, you can see them taking a picture at the big event. Okay, so our third council is the National Pan-Hellenic Council. The nicknames are the NPHC or Divine Nine. We have 6 active chapters here at SFA. And you'll see on the screen, whenever you think of, things like strolling or any sort of like coordinated dancing, that you'll typically see with our NPHC orgs. On the screen, you'll see some women of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated strolling here at SFA. So you'll see all of our 6 organizations. We have 3 sororities and 3 fraternities. We're hoping in the future that we'll be able to bring more of the NPHC organizations to campus. But right now we have 6 opportunities to join. We have a really strong NPHC community that is honestly just growing by the day. So if you're interested in NPHC, come on down to our office, ask us some questions. Okay, so our final council is the National Panhellenic Council. The nicknames are Panhellenic or PAN. We have 5 active chapters, and one thing that's cool about our Panhellenic sororities is that all 5 of them have houses out on Steen. So you'll see in the background for one of our sororities, Alpha Chi Omega, their house is in the background. So they'll typically host their philanthropy events there. They'll do a lot of their sisterhood events there as well. So you'll see the 5 sororities that we have on the screen, and again, just some more fun pictures of some of the things that they do around campus. As I said, philanthropy and service work is really important to our fraternity and sorority life community. So you'll see a picture of our sorority Chi Omega with some fun balloon letters of the amount of money that they raised for their philanthropy Make-A-Wish. So obviously joining a fraternity or sorority in 2020 is looking a little bit different than it has in years past. So I'll go ahead and share a little bit of information with y'all as to how you can join and what that looks like. So starting with IFC, their recruitment process is referred to as rush or recruitment. In fall 2020, there will be Zoom events that will be hosted August 20th and 21st, and then the 24th through the 26th. There will be some IFC open events. So this is where all of our IFC fraternities would participate. It would be kind of more informational and just a chance to learn more about IFC, learn about the fraternities, so on and so forth. And then the 24th through the 26th, our IFC fraternities will be hosting individual Zoom meetings so that you get a chance to meet the men of that chapter, ask them chapter-specific questions, and get to know the guys that are in those fraternities. So as I said at the beginning of this presentation, we do have a GPA minimum in order to join any of our organizations. So you'll see on the screen some of those minimum requirements. If you have less than 12 college or dual credit hours, you need to have a minimum GPA of 2.75, and that's on a 4.0 scale. If you have 12 or more college credit hours, you need to have a 2.5 GPA. And again, that's on a 4.0 scale, and this all refers to a cumulative GPA and not just a semester GPA. You need to be enrolled in 12 credit hours for the semester or be just a full-time student in general. The minimum is 12 credit hours. If you're enrolled in 15, that's totally fine. You can still go through. And there is a $50 fee to rush. So you do have to pay this $50 fee if you are wanting to participate in this recruitment or rush process. And you can pay that online. Okay, so for our NGC, it's referred to as rush or recruitment. Each organization decides when they will host their rush weeks, and their process kind of varies from organization to organization. So definitely recommend that if you have questions about what their process is going to look like, to reach out to them to get more info. and it's not guaranteed that they will host Rush in a particular semester. They typically do an off and on, so they won't host Rush, for example, in the spring, but they always host it in the fall. So highly recommend that you reach out to those organizations so that you can learn a little bit more about what they plan on doing, and what opportunities they'll have for you to get to know the members of those organizations. So the minimum requirements to join, obviously that 2.5 GPA, and then I know that some of the organizations, they have higher minimums that must be met. So again, it's important to reach out to those orgs to learn more about what those minimums are. And not only are there GPA minimums, but there may be other minimums as well, such as volunteer hours. You may need to have a certain amount of college hours as well. So you may not be able to join as like a first semester freshman. They may require you to have 12 college credit hours before being able to join, something like that. So again, I know I've said it about 5 times already, but it's really important that if you're interested in an organization, that you reach out to them to learn more about what sort of minimums need to be met in order to join. Okay, so for our NPHC, their process is referred to as intake. Each organization decides when they will conduct intake, and it varies from semester to semester. Kind of similar to MGC, maybe in the fall they do their intake process, but in the spring they don't, or it could switch up from year to year. I will say that many of our NPHC headquarters have put a pause on any sort of events right now, and that includes intake. So if you're interested in joining one of these organizations, I definitely recommend reaching out to see if they will even be conducting an intake process or doing any sort of rush or recruitment for this upcoming semester. At the very least, it can give you a connection to that organization so that you can learn a little bit more about them. So they have some additional minimum requirements outside of just the 2.5 GPA. You need to have 30 cumulative SFASU hours. So if you're a transfer student, 12 of those hours must be from SFA, and they do not take dual credit enrollment hours. So just because you may be entering SFA with, 12 to 15 hours of dual credit, that is not counted towards those cumulative SFA hours. You need to have 15 verifiable community service hours. So what that means is any sort of community service that you say you've participated in, that organization needs to be able to call whoever you've listed as a reference, and they can confirm that. So they will be kind of doing some checking up on what you're saying and what you're submitting to them. We also our office hosts an NPHC training. This gives you more information about fraternity and sorority life on our campus at SFA, and then it dives more deeply into what intake looks like for our NPHC organizations. There are a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things to take into consideration if you are interested in participating in intake for an NPHC org. So attending this training will help you feel more prepared. It'll help you make sure that you have all your ducks in a row before you begin to pursue membership with one of our NPHC organizations. All right, so for our final council, Panhellenic, this is referred to as recruitment. So you may hear the term rush associated with Panhellenic, but it's an outdated term. It's not used in any sort of official communications by sorority's headquarters or by any sort of professional staff. So if you hear myself or other sorority members using the term recruitment and not rush, that's the reason why. So we will be hosting Fall 2020 recruitment. It's going to take place August 20th through the 23rd. August 20th and the 21st, those will be virtual rounds that will be conducted in Zoom. And then August 22nd and the 23rd, those will be in person. So The 22nd is like a round party format where you would be visiting houses and talking to women in there. And the 23rd would be the final day, which is bid day, which is a big celebration and where you would find out which sorority you would be joining. As a note, recommendation letters are not required to go through recruitment here at SFA. So we do not want any women who may be interested in going through this process feeling stressed out about getting a packet of recommendation letters, getting together headshots, or anything like that. All of the information that's needed to go through recruitment, we will have you fill out with our online registration form. So there are some minimum requirements, just like with all of our other councils. You need to have a 2.5 cumulative GPA, and that's with any sort of dual credit hours as well. Whenever you go to register for the Panhellenic recruitment process, we have a full page disclaimer that outlines everything and can answer more of your questions when it comes to those GPA minimums. There is a $100 fee for primary recruitment. It is non-refundable, so please make sure you understand the GPA minimums and what is expected of you before signing up and paying. This $100 fee just goes towards things like meals, a t-shirt, and stuff like that whenever it comes to recruitment. So how much does it cost? We totally understand that cost and finances are definitely a big thing to consider if you're interested in joining fraternity and sorority life. So we'll kind of do a quick overview of what finances cover and then break it down by council, some of those averages. So first off, dues are managed differently from chapter to chapter. So we cannot give you just, this is what dues look like for every single organization on our campus, which again is why it's really important to communicate with our organizations to find out more information on what their payment plans, their dues processes, and what that looks like. So first off, what do dues cover? So dues cover a whole lot of things. It doesn't just go to the officer board of your organization. So this covers fees that are required by the International Umbrella Council, fees required by the chapter's headquarters, fees required by their campus council, as well as chapter officer budgets, and then chapter maintenance. So everything that is provided to an organization, to one of our fraternities or sororities, it does have to be paid for somewhere. So that includes, you know, like the internet at the sorority houses, things like that. All of these sort of little things that you may not be thinking about do have to be paid for from somewhere. And so that's what these dues cover. One thing to note is a new member's first semester is their most expensive regardless of affiliation, because there will be some one-time fees associated with joining that fraternity or sorority that you won't have any sort of semester afterward. All right, so breaking down what finances look like from council to council, because they all are a little bit different. So if you're joining an NPHC fraternity or sorority, you'll be paying an average lump sum ranging from $2,000 to $25. This is all paid up front. So it's important that if you are interested in joining an NPHC organization, that you have saved up that money beforehand so that you can make that one-time payment. What's unique about NPHC is that this lump sum, it covers all costs of membership for up to 2 years. Typically, when you're joining an NPHC organization, you're joining as an upperclassman, such as a sophomore or a junior or a senior. So these costs will cover the remainder of your collegiate experience, which is pretty neat. There is a chance that you will have additional fees each semester, maybe ranging from about $50 to $100 to cover any sort of costs that may pop up that may not have been accounted for whenever you paid that initial lump sum. But typically that lump sum, that will cover pretty much everything you need for, like I said, up to 2 years. So with ISC, your dues are paid each semester. Many of our chapters offer payment plans and will work with you when it comes to paying your chapter dues. It's very important though that if you need any assistance, such as working out a payment plan or anything like that, that you talk to that chapter's treasurer so that they can help you. So the average cost of new member dues for our IFC fraternities ranges from about $500 to $1,000. So it's, like I said, it's really important to ask those financial questions that are important to you to see where the organization you're interested in joining falls. And then your average cost of dues per semester ranges from about $400 to $750. And so one thing to note is that your new member dues, that is just what you would pay for the first semester you join. That is the only amount. And then once you've been in it for that second semester, then you would move into that $400 to $750 range. So as a new member, you're not paying, for example, $500 and then on top of that, $400. You would just be paying that $500 or whatever the range is for that fraternity. Okay, so with our Okay, so for our MGC organizations, dues are paid each semester. The average cost of new member dues is around $300 to $400. Could be more, could be less, you know, depending on the year. And then your average cost of dues per semester is $200. So much like IFC, whenever you're paying your new member dues, that is just for your first semester whenever you join. And then any semesters afterward, you're paying that average of that $200. Obviously, one thing to note is that regardless of the organization that you join, these are just some averages going into the year. Things change. However, every chapter will be able to give you more information about their finances from year to year. Okay, so for our Panhellenic organizations, dues are paid each semester. The average cost of new member dues is $13.2975 for this year going into the fall 2020 semester. And then your average cost for those second semester members, anyone past that first new member semester, breaks down like this. So if you were to live in the house, it would be $43.21.55. And if you were to live out of the house, so that would mean living on campus or living in an apartment in the city of Nacogdoches, it looks like $1084.20. Obviously, living in the house is more expensive because not only are you paying your dues, but you're also paying on top of that rent to live in the facility, along with a meal plan for the facility and just some other house maintenance that comes along with living in the chapter facility. In our Panhellenic recruitment informational booklet, which you can find linked on our website, you will find a breakdown of costs for each chapter. As I've said previously, this is just an average of all of the organizations. So there really is a sliding scale of what each chapter is charging for their dues. And again, things can change as time goes on. However, like I've said, just be sure to ask questions and get more information about those finances. Okay, so we've talked a lot about our fraternities and sororities here on campus, but what exactly do Seville and I do? So for some basics, we directly advise the council officers. So as I've said, we have an NPHC, MGC, IFC, and Panhellenic councils. So each of those councils has an officer board, and Seville and I directly advise the president and those officers on that board. And along with that, we of course provide support, assistance, and guidance to all of our fraternity and sorority presidents and any other officers who may need our assistance when it comes to event planning or chapter management. So we enforce accountability measures regarding SFASU policy and fraternity and sorority life office policy. So You'll hear a lot that more is expected of our Greeks, and that is very true. We hold them to a higher standard than a general registered student organization here at SFA. So we are really wanting to make sure that our Greeks are striving for the best and that they are doing more than is expected of the average student. So along with that, Seville and I plan and host educational and developmental events for officers and members. So that means doing things like hosting a chapter president training at the beginning of the semester, holding informational events regarding health and safety topics throughout the academic year. It really just kind of covers a broad spectrum. And then on top of that, of course, we serve as the departmental face for Greek life here at SFA. Okay, so as I mentioned, more tends to be expected of our fraternity and sorority life students. So, okay. Okay. All right, so we've talked a lot about Okay, so I've talked a lot about the fraternities and sororities that we have here on campus, but you may be wondering, what does the fraternity and sorority life office actually do? So some of the basics. Seville and I both directly advise our council officers. So as I mentioned earlier, every single fraternity and sorority falls under a council. So, IFC, MGC, etc. And each council has an officer board. So Seville and I directly work with the presidents and the officer boards to, plan events and advise and assist the fraternities and sororities that fall under that council. Of course, on top of that, Seville and I also create strong relationships with each chapter president and provide them support, guidance, or so some of the basics. So just Seville, so some of the basics. Seville and I directly advise council offer. Some of the basics. Seville and I directly advise council officers. So as I mentioned earlier, every single fraternity and sorority falls under a council. So that would be IFC, MGC, etc. And every single council has an officer board that kind of oversees the sororities or fraternities that fall under them. And Seville and I work directly with those officer boards. On top of that, Seville and I create really strong relationships with each chapter president and just sort of advise them, provide them support and guidance whenever needed. And of course, we're always happy to help any members of the chapter officer board so that, they can do their job most effectively. Along with all of this, Seville and I enforce accountability measures regarding SFA and fraternity and sorority life office policies. So, of course, every registered student organization at SFA has to follow the policies of the university. And then on top of that, Seville and I have some higher expectations for our fraternity and sorority groups. We'll learn a little bit more about those on the next slide, but you may hear that more is expected of our Greek students, and that is true. We want them to be able to rise to the occasion. We want them to be the face of this university when given the chance. So along with all of that, Seville and I plan and host educational and developmental events for both officers and regular chapter members. So this honestly ranges from hosting a chapter president training at the beginning of the semester to hosting any sort of health and safety informational programming throughout the academic year. It really varies, and we're always trying to make sure that we're providing the education, the support, and the guidance that our organizations need. And then, of course, Seville and I serve as the departmental face for fraternity and sorority life here at SFA. So what that just means is if there's a meeting with the university president or with any other directors across the campus, then either Seville or I will attend to provide a voice to fraternity and sorority life to make sure that their needs are being met and their voices are being heard. Okay, so I just mentioned how more tends to be expected of our Greek organizations. So with that, we have what's called STAR, or Success Through Accountability and Recognition, Standards of Excellence. So these are the standards the Fraternity and Sorority Life Office holds its sororities and fraternities to. So with that, there are 500 possible points that are broken into 5 categories. Those categories are scholarship, service, organization involvement, and leadership development, the chapter's new member program, and organizational management and member development. So you'll see that all of these categories cover a different piece of fraternity and sorority life. We are wanting to ensure that each of our chapters are focusing on academics with their members. They're providing service opportunities and opportunities to get involved with philanthropic work, as well as creating a great experience for members within the chapter. So we want to make sure that our Greek students are involved elsewhere on campus. So as I mentioned earlier, you'll see a lot of fraternity and sorority men and women who are involved in things like JAG Camp orientation leaders, the Student Activities Association, and just a whole bunch of other organizations on campus. And we want to reward that. We want people to be exposed to our fraternity and sorority students, and we want them to be involved as well. So with that, we have 5 star levels that a chapter can meet. So a 5-star chapter would be considered an excellent standing, and a 1-star chapter would be on probation. This would mean that that chapter is not able to participate in the intramural Greek League or hold any social events on or off campus. The reason for this is that if a chapter is in 1-star standing, it means they're just falling short when it comes to our 5 categories. And by removing some of the more social or quote-unquote fun aspects of being in a chapter, that gives them the time to really focus on their chapter management and really give them a second shot at strengthening their chapter so that they can come back stronger. So as I shared at the beginning of this presentation, highly encourage you to visit our website. On there, you will find information about all of our fraternities and sororities, and you will find more information on our star standings. So you will be able to see which chapters are considered 5-star, 4-star, and so on. This will give you a good idea of what you're looking for in an organization, and if any of your parents or guardians have questions about Greek life, this is a great thing to show them so that they can learn more about the organizations that we have on campus. You are welcome to reach out to our office to ask more questions, whether that's by email or contacting Seville or I personally. When you go to our website, you'll be able to find all of our contact information so that you can get a hold of us. We really hope you consider joining our fraternity and sorority community here at SFA. We have over 1,000 men and women who are involved in this community, and we'd love to add you to it. Axum.